Hi guys, welcome back to the Full Feature Podcast. I'm joined, as always, with Tiernan and Ian, and we are going to talk this week about one of our favourite directors, I think. One of the most critically acclaimed and hottest directors in the world for the last decade now at the moment. Last 2 decades. Last 2 decades. And that is Christopher Nolan. And we just finished watching his breakout film. Actually, we just finished watching his very first film that he's credited for, Doodlebug. That's a really fun short film that you should definitely watch. It's about 3 minutes long. It's on YouTube. Do you guys want to add to that, or
there's nothing to add to a 3 minute movie.
It's fun. It's really fun. It's cool. Like, you see like all the camera work that like he's getting used to messing around with, and like what's really cool about Nolan is like from a very early set you could see how interested he was about like creating suspense and you can see that in Doodlebug.
Yeah, absolutely.
Straight away, I mean, it's as you say, it's a 3 minute short. It's him just toying around with a camera, but it's also the most Nolan short film ever. And you just show that somebody go, yeah, that's so Christopher Nolan.
But there's CG effects on it, which like he
which
kind of like doesn't use,
which are very good, very good.
Yeah.
And we actually just finished watching his breakout film. It's called Following, and I don't know about you guys, it's an hour long. I really enjoyed this film. It has a lot of shades of Mementos we were talking about, but I thought it's only an hour long. It's very kind of Nolan-esque. You can see where, you know, his style breaks through from the very start.
Very well paced for an hour.
Well paced. I mean, it felt like maybe half an hour. It's
really I mean, you were in it straight
away.
It
it brings you in, pulls you in, like, and with a lot of Nolan films you get pulled in straight away. It's one of my favorite aspects of watching his films. You can just stick it on and majority of age groups will love it. But yeah, no, this is also on YouTube. It's got Spanish subtitles on it, but if you can speak Spanish.
Did they not go away at some stage? I feel like they weren't on it for the end.
I don't know. It was kind
of.
No,
they were there.
Were they there?
They were there.
Yeah,
but that shows you how engaging the film was.
Yeah,
there you go.
But Tim, you were saying that this film they all had full-time jobs.
So yeah, this film is his directorial debut, and it just like wasn't funded at all, I believe. I mean, like, that being said, like a film that's not funded, it still probably has like
some sort of financial
10 grand or so behind it, like
just
over 10 grand or so, but they all had full-time jobs and they were filming it over the weekends for like a year,
which is insane.
None of them, like, as we were saying, like the kind of villain or kind of antagonist in it, I suppose.
Antagonist,
or supporting character, basically, Cobb in this film, who is also the name of the lead in Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Inception. But he is played by, what was his name? Alex Haw?
Alex Haw, H-A-W.
And at the time he was studying
he was in engineering school and he starred in a couple of plays and he blew me away in this movie. It's the only thing he's ever done. It's the only thing he's ever credited to. But he's excellent in this. He steals the show, really.
He really does.
And now he's an architect?
Well, I presume so. I don't know. There wasn't much information, but he went to architecture school. And
he doesn't work in the film industry.
He doesn't work in the film industry yet. I mean, he did this, and he's brilliant in it. And he basically steals the show, in my opinion. I mean, this is the type of movie where there's two main characters. We're talking about this, where you know, in some aspects, it's not really.
You're following one character, thinking that this.
It's the main.
He plays this kind of suave kind of individual. And, like, there's a lot of suave individuals in these movies.
There is.
Yeah, like it definitely has themes of, like we were saying. A couple of his later films, you can see Memento in this a lot, even with the pacing. It's a non-linear story and storytelling. I think the thing about it as well was, like, it really impressed me, I have to say, even though I kind of knew I was going to get a classic Nolan film watching it, and I think his filmmaking has definitely evolved now. It's gone beyond that, because I would imagine there was a bit of a point where you were expecting a bit of a Tarantino thing, whereas like a lot of people were expecting non-linear stories from Tarantino when he started making films, because of obviously Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. I'd say that happened a little bit with Chris Nolan at the start, and he has done that non-linear thing. I think he actually took non-linear, which was being done by Tarantino, and then gave it an even fresher spin again, where it's like it's even patchier.
And he did it in like different formats.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, as we were saying, like Memento is kind of in reverse, and it kind of meets in the middle, and then like the story comes together in a big culmination. Whilst also like you don't know where you began, you don't know where you ended.
Exactly.
Whereas Inception is very much like try keep up. You don't know where you're gonna be at, but like.
but in saying that, so the thing about this podcast is, if most people listen to this, Christopher Nolan films, while they are like they're very high concept. They're very kind of very deeply written. They are extremely accessible. I mean, every like any kind of regular cinema goer will have seen Nolan's movies.
Yeah, they're alt blockbusters.
Yeah.
No,
that's a great way to describe it.
They're like indie blocks.
Everyone knows that when you see Christopher Nolan film, you're getting something a little bit different.
So with Following, it's essentially the story about a guy who follows people around. Some sort of a writer. He's got a kind of a little bit of a compulsion. And then he stumbles across this guy, Cobb, who cops onto him, following him. And then the story just goes from there. It just takes a completely different turn. And it's all... Every minute you're struggling to keep up with razor sharp dialogue. I mean,
excellent dialogue.
Especially like a few scenes that you could tell that were probably his baby writing this script. Like he really used some great dialogue in this film. Yeah. And I did think that it dipped like slightly in some certain... I felt like the chemistry between him and the woman... It kind of felt when Cobb wasn't in any of the scenes. I felt like the quality, not in like the dialogue or the setting, but just the acting kind of felt
100%. The acting is probably the worst thing about this film, bar Cobb. I think.
Yeah, definitely, because I mean it's such a low budget film that it's so impressive to see like you can see like his blueprints, Nolan's blueprints there, and how masterful and like high tier they are, even at this early stage in his career. And like it's just small elements that kind of like take away from it, but they don't even really, because I mean like it's still such an enticing story.
Listen, it's free. It wasn't funded. It was filmed on weekends. I mean, you can appreciate it so much more.
That's
walk into it like that.
That's a testament to how good Nolan is.
Yeah, you can see the talent, the raw talent there.
We've talked about how many factors can fuck up a movie. Sometimes it's the director. Sometimes it's a miscasting. Sometimes it's the actor. Sometimes the writer isn't that strong. Sometimes it's studio interference. With Nolan, it's like he is using a bare bones camera with unprofessional actors shooting on weekends, having to pick certain locations, and he made a story that is so engaging. It has you in from minute one, and you are just totally sucked into it. I can't recommend it enough. It's such a good starting place for Nolan as well. But what I was just saying to Jack there was, before we started the podcast, like Following is noticeably darker than his later films, and like I said in a previous podcast, what I love so much about Inception is that there's no real villain. All these people are kind of the good guys, and I love that every single character is as kind of good as the last, whereas there's kind of a bit of a clear antagonist in this, but in saying that, it's really crazy to watch this and go, this is the same guy who made the 3 Batman movies, and like there's so... While there is Nolan elements to the Batman movies, they're just so widely different in scale. And
he took them on to get funding for his later film. Inception was the later film that he wanted to go ahead.
The build up to the
because he did Memento, and then he
he did Batman Begins, Prestige the year after. He did The Dark Knight, Inception the
in
year
between,
after,
and then The Dark Knight Rises,
and then I believe he went straight on to do Interstellar. So the man was bashing.
He hits like proper them out of the park for he hits them like 12 years consistently.
Just a really
even longer, like 14, 15 years.
A meticulous man, like so in saying that, that's a good play, because we can't really say too much about Following without spoiling it. It's a twisting and turning story, but it does come together nicely in the end.
It really does. And I mean, that's the whole thing about, I feel like, why we're appreciating the likes of Cobb so much. And even like the main character, when he was with Cobb, really bounced off him well. I thought that there was good acting all around for what it is. But I think what this is a great example of is how much a script and good writing can elevate acting.
Yeah. 100%.
Like to a serious level. Because these actors, nothing came of them, And like, while like we may have our like slight complaints about how they performed, I mean the script really elevated them to the next level. And it really brings this film that had little to no funding to like a Christopher Nolan level, And it looks great as well in black and white, which is
a solid 7 out of 10 for me.
It really is. Like it's
and I think I'd probably give it a 7.5 because of the fact it's not
all
these factors that we've discussed.
Budget, So, in saying that, let's go into Memento a little bit.
Well, as I told you, the great thing about this was he showed the Following, or is it just Following? I think it's just Following. He showed Following at the Korean Film Festival. And then he asked the audience for funding for his next film, Memento. So he was clearly still on a shoestring budget, even for Memento, which is definitely a lot lower scale than his Following films, as in like funding wise and like extravagance wise.
Yeah.
So that like both of these films definitely wouldn't be all blockbusters yet, you know.
No, I think Following and Memento are kind of like double features. They're the kind of thing that they're kind of sister movies.
Yeah,
they're very similar in many ways. Obviously, they're two different stories with different characters, but there's a lot of style choices there. There's a lot of structural choices there that are quite similar. But in saying that, Memento it's probably like what he wanted to do with Following with a big budget. That's kind of it, and it's seeing it to come to fruition.
Or like a second revision of a script or something.
Exactly.
It feels like every time, like when you see this a lot with art, when it's done once and it's their baby, and then when they move on from that,
I'm going to like
they take the best elements out of everything and get rid of the old, not the bad elements, but
the stuff that you can improve on.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's nothing bad about Following. It's just Memento is the dream realized.
The
even though I think I probably prefer Following to Memento.
Yeah, I actually think I might agree with you there. I mean, when I have to say, when I first saw Memento, it blew me away. Like I've never seen a film that it was ruined for me. So I was just nightmare. This is the thing. So I don't want to say too much about these films. Memento is essentially. It stars Guy Pearce, who I'm normally not a huge fan of.
Me neither.
I think he did a good job.
But he's not good.
He's
in general,
a subpar.
He's not. Ever since I saw him as Aldrich Killian
in
Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3. Yeah. No, let's not get into that. Open up that can of worms again.
Quickly on.
But so he's essentially what's his character's name again? Lenny. But is that what he's called? Like I think he's referred to as Lenny in the movie, but
I think that there's like a whole kind of just like it's Leonard, so Lenny.
But there's
ambiguity.
There's ambiguity behind everything,
character,
and it's the same as Following. There's ambiguity behind the characters' names as well. I mean, they refer to him as Bill in it, but I don't think he was billed as Bill in the end.
In the end, no, I'm not sure. Yeah, and like there was also didn't he? What I was confused about in the Following. Sorry, just to dig it off Memento because we haven't actually discussed Following But we haven't given our opinions to each other, we jumped straight into the pod, But didn't he give his name to Cobb at the start as Danny Lloyd?
No, he said it was Bill, but Danny Lloyd
was the guy that Cobb gave him the credit card for.
But they did say Danny Lloyd.
They said Danny Lloyd before.
They did, because I remember when they said D Lloyd on the card, I was like, that was mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it was the credit card in the restaurant.
No, but before
that it was mentioned
as well.
We
need to refine
this. So the main guy is the young man.
Yeah, so he's called the young man, but he's called Bill.
Yeah,
so,
and then the blonde and Cobb.
The blonde and Cobb, yeah. Cobb so there's ambiguity in all the characters' name, and even Cobb is a very ambiguous name.
Yeah, I mean, what's the story there? Why did that spill into Inception?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty sure Nolan has come out and said it's not really a particular thing. I think as well with Inception, when he wrote the characters, he just picked 6 ambiguous names.
Probably the best way to do it.
Cobb is a great name, isn't it?
It's a cool name.
I mean, it is. Maybe it's just because Nolan's done it, but I mean, it is
cool.
Name.
It's very iconic.
Anyway, on to Memento.
But yeah, so it's about a guy who he suffers a form of amnesia where he had an accident. He has old memories, but he can't form new ones. So
it's the same as 50 First Dates, is it?
It's exactly it is.
He loses memory every day.
Exactly, and has to relearn it. And so he does things like he tattoos himself and writes things down.
The tattoos are incredible
to remember things. He uses Polaroid photos. He'll take a photo of somebody, write their name, write a little fact about them, and these are all classic Nolan tropes where Nolan comes up with this I feel like Nolan stories, exactly, and I feel like Nolan is the kind of guy who writes a character like Lenny in Memento and goes, okay, so he can't form new memories, so how would he go about memorizing things?
Or maybe he even sees a kind of bang average murder mystery whodunit. And he says, "What would be cool if we did a fresher twist? Yeah, a fresher twist of it, because obviously there's 1,000 different murder mystery things you can.
It's done.
I mean, there's good twists. One of my favorites is Mystic River. Love that film.
Yeah, but you're right.
Decent twist.
It's a good twist.
Decent story, but Nolan just fucking brings it to it's like a fourth dimension.
Yeah, it's all these elements in it. He adds all these elements in that just elevates the film.
Nolan is a whodunit without the person who actually done it. I mean that actually
it was you, the listener. I mean,
but no, you're dead.
The viewer.
You're dead right, Ian. Obviously, without the Batman trilogy completely off the table because that's a different universe altogether, and Insomnia, which he didn't actually write. and The Following, of course, there's actually no villains in any of his other work.
No, not particularly. Like, you
like,
know, and
yeah, I can't think of any. The Prestige, Christian Bale slightly, but not even really. I mean, like, him and Hugh Jackman are kind of on a level playing field with, like, they're both just trying to compete with each other, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly, yeah.
And if anything, Hugh Jackman turns out to be the villain, who's also the protagonist.
Also,
but
exactly,
I mean, like,
exactly.
so it's such a. I mean, I really like his attitude towards that. Then because it's really kind of, he's just breaking the rules completely when it comes to storytelling. There's not an antagonist. There's not a protagonist. You know, it's.
And to be fair, when you watch Following, if you were the kind of person who was watching, say, Chris Nolan coming up, you might say, because I think a lot of people's first exposure to Nolan was the Batman franchise.
Yeah.
It was my first exposure to him, which is.
And even in watching the Batman franchise, he didn't really matter.
No, like,
if you get me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he
obviously
made those
mattered,
films,
yeah,
but it wasn't the. And obviously there's Nolan things he did in, like, The Dark Knight, like but they're not necessarily. I don't think it was him sitting there going, I'm going to make this really complicated story, because they're not very complicated stories in the Batman franchise.
Yeah.
They're very easy to follow. There's a few things in them, like, I think a lot of the Joker's plots
and a lot of
had a lot of Nolan ingenuity in them.
Brilliant when just talking about a scene here in Batman. It's like, this is like a theory on the internet, but like it's pretty fucking obvious to me. Not to sound like a mega nerd or whatever. It's when the Joker is in the lineup. Remember the commissioner's talking. And the Joker is posing as a cop, and he's got scars on his face, and you can see it's Ledger, like,
it's Heath Ledger.
So like people are like, oh, was that the Joker? And like maybe he had like PTSD from like being the cop or whatever. It's like, no, like people aren't understanding the Joker is just like this idea, this how'd you say that word? Omnipotent, kind of presence in Batman's life.
That you'll just always
always be there, and like there doesn't need to be an origin story or whatever, but I just thought it was brilliant that like he just put him in there, and it's only split a couple of frames.
You kind of go, oh fuck!
You go, what the fuck's going on here? Oh shit! Like, are we looking? Yeah. And it's just really interesting.
Exactly, and like even things like the opening scene in The Dark Knight, that bank robbery. I mean, how many bank robbery scenes have you seen? But that one is just.
Well, that's next level. That will always be next level as well.
You know, I mean, like, but these are Nolan things he drops into a Batman franchise. Do you know?
But I don't think
so. Memento and stuff aren't like that. These are like kind of very films that are purposely structured that way.
Yeah,
they're like, I mean, I'm sure if you're reading the script, you need to like check certain things. And this is the thing. Nolan could have continued down that route. I respect though that he didn't, because. While there is a lot of Nolanisms in, like, you know, The Prestige and stuff, and that kind of has that twisty thing, if we look at his later movies, you know, Interstellar doesn't really have it to the same level as.
Do you not think that Interstellar plays with time quite a bit?
I think the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, that's like a classic Nolan twist. I've watched it about 3 or 4 times since. And it's much more linear than I think people kind of realize. You know, it does toy around with. I think
that, like, rather than the story actually like being kind of staccato in time wise, it's more so like the concept. The concept is
it's set across this time bending.
Yeah, I mean the time is a construct within the film rather than the film.
It's like they're visiting different timelines, and you're visiting them with them
in a chronological.
It's not
order
like in chronological film. It's not non-linear. It's linear. It's a linear story with time travel.
It's toying around with if time was non-linear, which it is.
Although I gotta say, I do think that, like, definitely a handful of his films, like Memento, Inception, Interstellar, Tenet is definitely going to be this. I mean, we can already see it coming.
Us in the head.
I think the following. I think, like, a lot of those definitely, like, the non-linear structure, there's definitely, like, imprints on all of them in the sense that it's he's definitely not completely moved away from it.
No, and I mean, I felt he did it as well with Dunkirk, which we've spoken at length in this podcast a few times, where it's probably my least favourite of his movies, but I really still like it. Dunkirk. Like, a lot of people, and to be fair, a lot of people don't. I still like.
Well, it's a fine movie. Yeah, like I've said it before, it's fine. But like,
I think it was really hyped as well. Everyone was buzzed.
That's really unfortunate, and I think that as well with Tenet. I'm really praying that it's not.
Well, no,
but then again, do you remember the hype for the Batman movies and the Inception? Yeah, Inception, there was huge hype for it. I remember the first
Interstellar more so.
Oh, Interstellar was huge.
After Inception,
it was like, what's he
gonna
do next? And he's yet to.
Interstellar is my favorite. He created the software to show what a different dimension would be like.
Yeah, like we'll get into his visual effects. I think we should talk about that
as a whole section,
because his visual effects are just so good. But sorry, back to Dunkirk. that's a movie that very much just follows the basic film structure. He was just telling the story about the war, but there was one little moment in it where he went a bit non-linear with Cillian Murphy's character, and they just threw in a little flashback with him, and I was like, it was just after the plane was bombed, and even though the whole story is him on the boat, it just gave one little quick moment where it was like, it showed you why he has like PTSD and shell shock. And I was like, he couldn't help himself there. He had to throw that one.
Well, you know what I didn't like about, like, I don't want to jump forward to the Dunkirk because technically we're still on Memento. But
well, to be fair, we're restricted in this podcast a little bit. We can't get too much into Memento. So I
we'll just keep moving. I mean, you don't want to ruin anything either. But like, with Dunkirk, I didn't like the amount of hype that there was, and that like everyone was expecting non-linear.
It also had one of the best trailers I'd ever seen.
It did, yeah. But there's that ticking. And that ticking of time that like we could even see Doodlebug, like all the way back to Doodlebug, but that ticking of time that you just thought he was going to take it from a completely different angle, and he didn't.
He didn't. It was a war movie. Yeah. It was your very basic war movie. And one thing I didn't like about Dunkirk as well is it was 12s, and I kind of figured World War II movies should not like keep the violence to a minimum. Do you know what I mean? They were like, very violent.
We didn't get
wars.
Kirklow Beach with Saving Private Ryan and one of the best opening scenes of all time.
Exactly. Like,
for fucking a 12s movie where someone hits their head and dies.
Yeah, exactly. It was also a very...
Harry Styles, isn't it?
It was also a very... It was also a very classic British pride American movie.
Weird.
Yeah.
Weird. That whole thing is just weird. The whole aesthetic of like, ooh, Britain.
But it's to be fair, it's because as well, I feel like they were commonplace years ago, that type of movie. They've stopped since. Americans are still pumping them out. Like, Americans will still pump out patriotic World War II movies. Like there's fucking no tomorrow. Exactly. Like, they'll keep them out. They were very popular in Britain, obviously, in like post-war, like, you know, The Great Escape. Yeah. Where it's like, hey, jolly good lads. Yeah. You know. So, and this was like, I think this was a bit of a throwback to that. Yeah. It was a little bit like, I mean, Kenneth Branagh's character was the classic one who's like, I'm staying for the French, like, you know what I mean, like. All right,
cheers, mate. You were probably first one on the boat, like.
But so if we go back to Memento, then if we kind of rein it back in, then with Memento, that is the same vein as Following, where it's like the second it starts, you're in it.
Yeah. And I mean, he really does bring you into it immediately with like just you can completely understand from the get go. This is going to be a constant battle with himself. It's not like with the audience. It's not with an outward source. It's just with himself, whilst also trying to solve like a murder or like his wife's murder.
It's his wife's murder,
or lover. I don't even think he knows it. And then it just completely topples on itself. Like, you think you're going to get the resolution you want, and you just definitely don't.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mind bender. Like,
I gotta say though, I love this film obviously because you have to love it. Because it's just excellent, like it really is just excellent. But it is one of those films that you're kind of like, it's still a great film, but it's kind of like...
Yeah, I get you, because funnily enough, I've only seen it maybe twice, whereas like Inception I've seen about 6 times. I've seen it, like I really want to revisit those, and I think it's because it's so low scale, these films, that like Following and Memento they're just very, very stripped back.
Closed stories. Basically, like most of Memento takes place in like a fucking...
It takes place in a hotel room. It does. It basically does take place.
Like that's what the key scenes are. I just remember, like I haven't seen it in years, but I just remember Brown.
Yeah,
and hotel room. Yeah, and him and fucking your man freaking out, like.
Yeah. Now it's
great though.
It is, and like the editing is great in them and stuff. Like, you know, there's constant shots of Guy Ritchie on the phone, and they're in black and white. But then you'll see him in the exact same motel room in different clothes, and you know, in a completely different scenario.
Must have been a nightmare to film.
So, I mean, I can't imagine.
Well, that's what we were saying with the likes of like the following, and Memento, and even. I mean, I suppose mainly these films, it must just be so hard for Nolan to step back from the script, step back from the storyboards and be like, where am I? And like, where do I go?
Wait a second.
And like, I wonder, does he shoot them chronologically?
I'd say he does, and then...
As in by the script
No, I'd say he writes a script chronologically, and then decides
he
where
mixes
to...
it up.
Just probably gets a biro and fuck, you're going over here.
It's very rare that a film is shot in chronological order, but I reckon Jack's dead on. He writes it as it's meant to be, and he's like, it's like a Rubik's Cube. He fucks the pages into there.
David Bowie used to read the fucking newspaper and write down the words, and then that's how he made up the lyrics. It's a songwriting technique. And I feel like Christopher Nolan listened to David Bowie. He was like, I can do this with movies.
But So then after Memento, you have
Insomnia.
Insomnia, yeah. Tell us about Insomnia, too, because I actually
who plays the antagonist? Well, not antagonist, but kind of like the two main characters.
So it's Al Pacino and then
Al Pacino and yeah,
Robin Williams.
Al Pacino. Hilary Swank is also a massive part in this film, and it was great. I don't know where she's gone lately, but like I always thought she was a brilliant actress.
Yeah.
And Robin Williams, which it's kind of the story.
Strange cast for
an early 2000s kind of mystery.
This is a strange film for Nolan, in my opinion, because he didn't write it. First of all, they would have to say that off the bat, and you can see that he didn't write it. But you cannot, because it's not meticulous in a Nolan sense. There's a lot that I wish was happened with this film that didn't. But I can definitely see why he took the script. So essentially what it's based on is it's an LA cop. It's kind of like this famous kind of like LA murder mystery solver. Kind of has a load of famous cases. Hilary Swank is kind of like the rookie detective. And he goes up to the sticks in Alaska, Al Pacino and his partner. And they meet Hilary Swank. She's a detective in the Alaskan fucking police department. And they have to go and solve this murder of a young woman. And it's kind of weird in a sense that it feels really kind of like sensationalized and all, in the sense that, like, Al Pacino's this like famous cop and she's like licking up to him all. And
the characters are probably a little bit more caricature-y than
of course, yeah. And what immediately happens is you find out that Internal Affairs back in LA is looking into all of his cases. Okay. And there's a load of deep-rooted history there, and like the whole department is pretty dirty, and a lot of cops have gone down. And his partner tells him, "Look, I've got to cut a deal. Like it's happening whether you like it or not, basically." And he gives him that ultimatum. And Al Pacino's like, "Well, they're not going to care about you. Like, I'm the famous one. They're going to come after me after, you know." And everything kind of goes wrong there. They set a trap for Robin Williams' character, who ends up getting away on this foggy beach. And then next thing you know, Al Pacino ends up shooting his partner accidentally, in parentheses, because you don't really know throughout the entire film whether or not. Like, did he do it on purpose? Did he do it on purpose or did he not? So, I mean, it's kind of cool in the sense, it's kind of Nolan in the sense that, I mean, the battle, the whodunit is kind of, did Al Pacino do it or not? You know, even though you know that he actually did it. So, I mean, that's cool. It's also set in Alaska during their season where it's completely sunny for like, it's daylight 24 hours a day, so that's why he's an insomniac, basically. That's the name of the film. You can't get to sleep because it's fucking bright all the time, you know. There's no concept of time, really. As opposed to Alaska, like 6 months of the year where it's completely dark.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
What a crazy nation.
Ridiculous place. Uninhabitable, some would
say. Well, I suppose, like, I don't know, oil? Yeah, oil.
Yeah.
It's literally all fucking about oil, isn't it?
There's a reason the fucking Russians and Americans were fighting over for fucking years.
Yeah. But what's cool about Insomnia is basically it's kind of like they're trying to get a gotcha on Robin Williams, who committed a murder against a young woman, and Robin Williams ends up witnessing Al Pacino murder his partner. And I'm not going to ruin too much because it all unfolds in a different way, but basically Al Pacino and Robin Williams kind of help each other throughout, but they're also kind of like at each other at the same time, and there's some great lines in it. So Robin Williams thinks he's this writer, and now that he's murdered someone, he thinks that he has this clarity on life, and he starts explaining it in this really deep way to Al Pacino, and Al Pacino turns around and he goes, "You realize this is my job. You think you're special, but to me you're like a clogged toilet to a plumber."
I love that.
And it immediately shuts Robin Williams down. But then Robin Williams, of course, being like an incredible actor and like bringing so much to any character he played, he just immediately also shuts Al Pacino down, and they're very at each other in a very good way. But at the same time, my issue with it, and why I think that this is obviously a film that Nolan didn't write, and like you can kind of see that, is because
I wonder why he directed this without writing it.
Or maybe the flaw that I found in it is I think it's based on a book.
It probably
I'm
is,
not sure.
like, yeah.
But one of my issues, maybe it's because he doesn't like villains that they didn't have this good a chemistry. But I feel like Robin Williams and Al Pacino, that should have been the crux of the story.
Yeah.
Whereas it was more of a segment to the story than it was like the whole story. Like they really should have been kind of in cahoots and trying to set each other up and trying to get each other the whole story, because that's the story you want to hear. Like the detective finds the murder,
and then they end up
but they blackmail each other. They kind of, if anything,
it's more interesting.
They're more frenemies. Which, I mean, it all kind of ends up in a nice kind of bow package, which you wouldn't expect from Nolan now. But there's also like a big reveal at the end and everything along them lines. So it's definitely a film I'd recommend. It's just not a film that...
Don't expect a mind bender.
It's not really Nolan, you know, very much. It's definitely kind of a straightforward detective story that's not really straightforward at all, but you just expect it to be a lot less linear because it's Nolan behind it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So in saying that, then where does the Batman trilogy fit into this? Because obviously these were like extremely ambitious films to take on. It's a huge risk, I think, for a director, especially with someone like Chris Nolan, who very much has a vision. He very much has a style of writing, to take on a superhero franchise. And first of all, be tasked with reinventing it, but also have all the restraints of studio interference. It needs to be profitable.
Fan service,
fan service,
commercial value,
all these things,
all these major boxes. And what a fucking job this was to take on.
And he fucking did it.
Yeah,
fucking.
What's strange to me though is he's like a huge open James Bond fan. And would this be?
I'm telling you now, he needs to do a Bond.
Would this have been around the time though that
Casino Royale
was
it would have been,
and the Bond series was rebooted? So it's strange that he ended up here rather than in the Bond universe. I feel
with the Bond series, they're like, you're gonna have to fucking sign on to a few films. Like,
yeah. You see, the problem is if it was successful.
Yeah, if it's successful,
they would want
and then,
more.
You know,
and then it calls into question: do you change the Bond franchise? Do you make the Bond franchise?
Do you make it kind of like this? I feel like maybe the Bond franchise might have turned him down after looking at his previous films.
I wouldn't be surprised because I mean
they're very bread and butter British fucking spy things.
And they've also gone for very safe directors, Bond directors. Like I mean,
you're getting
Sam Mendes. You know, he's a great director, but you know he did 1917. You know, that's his kind of style of like movie.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, exactly. And to be fair, the latest Bond, which I have to say I'm very excited for, even though all these fucking issues have been plaguing it, but that they had Danny Boyle before that, who I think he left for artistic reasons because he has a very specific vision about his films.
Incredible director.
Yeah,
I love Danny Boyle.
He's so good. But now that, funnily enough, they've managed to get Kerry Fukunaga, who we talked about, Maniac and True Detective. But I could see him being able to follow a studio mandate more so than Nolan would. Although in saying that,
you're gonna have to. It's
Nolan
a big
did follow a studio mandate.
If you ruin James Bond, it's like ruining fucking Harry Potter.
It is. It's such a beloved franchise. It's such a beloved franchise and a lucrative franchise.
And like we're the wrong generation for loving James Bond.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, I don't care about James
30,
Bond.
No, I never really
30
have.
to 40.
They are
right now is the people who love James Bond.
But also as well as it's such a thing that older generations love to pass on to their younger generations. Like I watched Bond because of my dad. Yeah. And a lot of people do. Like, so whether Nolan could take on a franchise like that and make it, see, that's the difficulty with Bond, because you want it to be interesting and new and fresh. But then you also need it to be exactly like every other Bond movie.
Yeah, you need it to be nostalgic. Whereas Batman was literally crying out for complete reform.
Yeah,
like, it wasn't.
They had put that thing in
the
grave.
They drilled that thing to the ground.
And there's like so much like dark source material for Batman that it would definitely be an easier job than Bond, 100%. Because I mean, like all of the animated series, all of the comics are extremely dark. They're extremely grounded in kind of reality, whilst also like extremely chaotic and like anarchist and different things along them lines. But I mean, we've like, he just did such a phenomenal job. We've talked about it on like the Schneider Cut and everything. They're definitely not Nolan, but like as I said, he was looking for funding on his bigger blockbusters.
He was working towards Inception and Prestige and things like that. But the thing about it is as well is, I think these movies were very important for Nolan in that obviously they helped
popularizing
him, but also like him in terms of scale, because the Prestige is still quite low stakes. Obviously, there's a few parts of it that are quite high scale. Like obviously, the Nikola Tesla stuff is very high concept. But other than that, it's very kind of grounded. And I think now when you look at like Interstellar and like by the looks of things, Tenet is going to be this like mind bending visually fucking, you know,
makes Inception look like fucking Junior and shit.
Exactly, like
Johnny. Yeah, I feel like the Dark Knight franchise kind of grew him up a bit.
And you know what it was great at? It was great at bringing out Chris Nolan's sense of humor. Yeah, because he was great at making Bruce Wayne and Alfred very funny characters,
bouncing off each other.
The Joker's fucking gas.
The Joker's a very funny character.
I love my favorite scene is when like he's pressing the buttons and like the pyrotechnics actually wasn't working.
That happened,
and he refused to just go out of character, obviously.
And just
obviously fucking went so far into character.
Pleasure.
Yeah, well, have you ever heard? I think we've spoken about this briefly, but Aaron Eckhart talking about his scene around like, remember him and the Joker in the hospital, and he's in the hospital bed and the Joker's at him, and he just said, Aaron Eckhart said, out of nowhere, Heath came out and just started like grunting around the bed waiting for them, and they basically did a scene before that scene, and like not even rehearsing, just kind of vibing, you know, like they were already in character, they're already ready to go, and about like the whole scene they got in a couple of takes or whatever and different things along them lines, but like afterwards he was just like to Heath, he was like, that was incredible, and Heath was like, that's acting, man.
God damn it, Heath.
I know.
It's such a shame. Like.
But even if we look at things in the Batman franchise where it's like, I think it really gave weight to Chris Nolan's casting ability, because like Memento, the cast doesn't really stick out. It's really just Guy Pearce.
Oh, Bale is the best Batman.
Like, Bale is ever. So good as Batman, which is a huge
hot take maybe for
Heath Ledger was
40-year-olds out there.
No, but like it's true though. Like I mean, you know what I mean,
and he's the best Bruce Wayne as well.
And I loved Michael Keaton, but I've always said that controversially.
People can have their favorite Batman.
You know what really gets me in The Dark Knight and the Batman Begins, is my only criticism about the whole franchise is just how off the fucking walls he goes with the Batman voice.
Yeah, it was crazy. And that was Bale's decision, apparently.
It was. And in Dark Knight Rises, they were like, look,
tone it back a bit.
We have to tone it back, like we're not.
Yeah, well, it became a massive meme.
Yeah,
he did.
Although the second one has that line,
where's my sugar? Where's my sugar?
It's like you're a billionaire, like you simply get a voice decoder. Like.
But to be fair, it makes sense in that universe of Batman that he'd have to change his voice.
Yeah, no, 100%.
People would have copped it, like. Yeah. But in saying that, how well cast it is. You got Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Michael Caine as Alfred, who is just
best
first Alfred that's not so boring.
Yeah,
he's like, Mr. Wayne, I've prepared your breakfast.
But
he's like a smart.
He's the Cockney. Yeah, he's like the smart. Yeah. Now, to be fair, you know who had a very good take on the character of Alfred was actually Jeremy Irons.
Yeah,
he was speaking about it, and he goes, I always saw him as kind of actually quite a lower class ex-army kind of guy who went working for, and I think Michael Caine really got that. He was probably a working class guy.
He's Cockney
went working for the Waynes and was part of the family essentially. Like, but you have Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox. Now. This wasn't a bit of a bone of contention, but I thought Katie Holmes was pretty terrible as Rachel Dawes. To be perfectly honest with you, I thought she couldn't hold herself.
Well, my thoughts on fucking Maggie Gyllenhaal. I think they're both awful. They're the worst two, not the worst characters, but the worst two actors in the whole thing. They're terrible. I hate the character. And that's a hot take.
Well, the character's. I feel like the character's not the best character.
The character's not the best. It's boring. Batman doesn't need a love interest, in my opinion.
I think it's kind of as well as like.
Well, not in this universe.
They had to have the love interest.
I much prefer the Anne Hathaway kind of vibe that they were.
Well, they had a much better chemistry.
Wait, did the actors change?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Katie Holmes.
Completely. Because
you watch these films in front of me.
Yeah, no. Like, I didn't watch Batman Begins, and it's fucking Maggie Gyllenhaal in Dark Knight. Yeah, and then she's like flashbacked in the Dark Knight.
Well, I believe that Katie Holmes apparently was really into the Batman Begins. She really put a lot of effort into it, and she really liked the character and stuff. But I'm fairly certain her performance got a little bit panned at the time.
Yeah, when you said Katie Holmes, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
But it wasn't I don't think it was a case where it was like Nolan fired her, because I'm pretty sure Nolan wanted her to come back in it, because they liked the idea of changing the cast. But she was going through an extremely messy divorce with Tom Cruise and Scientology.
Yeah.
Whoa.
We discussed this. We discussed this 2 weeks ago. We'll have no Scientology slander on the podcast.
Yeah. We're pro Scientology. I mean, maybe we should take that back.
Please don't sue us, L. Ron Hubbard.
I don't want any weird knocks on my door tonight.
David Miscavige is going to be watching this podcast.
But anyway, we love Dark Knight. Dark Knight's not really Nolan. Actually, I have a mad fact. Nolan was actually writing, I think it was around the time of, just before the Dark Knight trilogy, he was writing a Howard Hughes biopic.
No way.
And he said it was the greatest thing he's ever written. So Howard Hughes, obviously, the Aviator. The Aviator. Mm. And he said it was the best thing he's ever written. And then Scorsese came out with Aviator, so he just tabled it. and I don't know what happened.
Did he ever give his thoughts on the Aviator movie? Did he say it was?
Is the Aviator?
I didn't actually read that.
It's okay.
It's a biopic.
It's very blow.
It's a
biopic.
It's Scorsese.
It's Scorsese.
You see, the thing is about Scorsese, and this is the difference between Scorsese and Nolan, and the difference between Scorsese and Tarantino. There's no expectation behind Scorsese because he bangs them out every year. You know, I mean,
he does bang them out every year.
Yeah. So when he has like an unbelievable,
it's one of the more forgettable ones.
Yeah.
As well.
When he has an unbelievable one, it's like, wow, brilliant
great.
Scorsese.
We've done it again.
When he doesn't, it's like, oh.
That movie came out.
Yeah, it's still a good film, you know, usually.
Leo was great in it. Leo was really good.
I'm sure
Howard Hughes had like OCD and like fucking...
He had like a big, like kind of, he had a
brace going on. Yeah.
Everyone in the 40s had that, man.
Everyone just had polio.
There was no calcium.
Everyone just had polio.
No calcium. That's why there's so many cows.
And black lung, like.
Yeah. Everyone smoked 80 cigarettes. There's no milk.
With no filters on them.
Yeah, you got a house though. You got a house.
you got a house.
You got a house. Yeah. So will we just move on from Batman because
we'll
I know
Prestige, will we?
Yeah, we'll go Prestige.
Let's
but
talk
just talking about Batman in general, we will do an episode on it when Bat-Pack comes out.
Yeah.
I'd love to do one, and maybe we finish that on ranking. The Batmans. Mine goes. The best one is obviously Dark Knight. Then it goes Dark Knight Rises. Then it goes.
That's
Batman
always been
Begins.
a hot spot of contention amongst me and Cal.
Dark Knight Rises is actually my least favorite one.
Really? That's fucking wild.
Dark Knight,
that's
Batman
crazy.
Begins.
Dark Knight Rises isn't as like it's a tough follow.
I thought that was like the kind of the general consensus.
No way, Dark Knight Rises is unbelievable.
No, it's great. It's
They're all
good.
See, I've always made the argument that they always, but like Cal is a firm believer that Dark Knight Rises is better than the Dark Knight because he's extremely stubborn. But I've always made the argument that they all completely complement each other.
They do. They are such a trilogy.
There are movies you have to watch.
They are such a trilogy.
It's like watching Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
No one really has a favorite.
It is so unbelievably rare to find a trilogy like that. Like Lord of the Rings was the first one that came to my mind as well, and I can't think of anything else.
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit has one unbelievable film.
Which one's that?
The Desolation of Smaug.
Nah, first one's
You don't think Smaug was good?
I don't know. I just don't like the Battle of the
Battle of the Five Armies.
I didn't
Unbelievably bad. I actually really liked it.
I went to go see them all.
Do you know why I didn't go see the Battle of the Five Armies, Jack?
Stubbornness.
No, because you told me not to, and
really?
I fully agreed with you. I'd seen the second one.
Have you watched it?
I remember.
Oh well, it sucks ass.
You texted me and said, "Do not go see this movie."
Yeah,
it is.
I was actually really annoyed because
shit.
I think we saw it together, didn't we?
Yeah,
I was so.
It was like coming up to 3 hours long.
Yeah.
It was a single chapter in a book. The CGI was woeful. The script was woeful. Everything was woeful.
And every single.
The character design.
The Hobbit should have been a film. You know,
should have been one movie.
And everyone loved it. But it was during that time in Hollywood where they're like, let's make every book into 8 films and have fucking Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah. And like there'll be like a dystopian future. In fact, weirdly enough, on last year,
Hunger Games.
We talked about the Hunger Games.
The Hunger Games is a massive dystopian.
Yeah, it is a massive.
It's like
it's kind of a dumb one though.
You think?
It's kind of a really dumbed down.
I love the
it's
world.
one that 14-year-olds could understand.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, when the massive totalitarian government sees a 14-year-old girl,
the capital and 12
not that I'm saying that like a 14-year-old boy will have the same reaction.
Listen, I read all these books as well as a kid. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them.
I love I think the ending to it though, that like the snow ending and like the kind of like cut my head off, another one will go, and it's best and everything. I thought the Hunger Games hit on some great points. I think it gets a really, really bad rep because it was split into 2 films.
Yeah, no, that's very fair.
So thank God we moved away from that, you know.
Time.
Just like the first Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 1. Like, it's fine. It's just boring. The second one's great. Back to fucking...
the Prestige. Let's talk about the Prestige.
Imagine how incredible the Deathly Hallows would be if it was one film, though.
I would gladly sit in the theater for 4 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah,
the assumption that people will get up and walk out of a Harry Potter movie.
Well, they just want to sell more
that's true,
films, you know? I mean, like, thank God everyone has just had the consensus. That was a weird period in film. We're not doing it anymore.
Also, as well, I thought what was really pathetic was they were really trying to cash in on the Hunger Games thing with that, do you remember those movies Divergent?
Shocking films.
They were so bad that by the time it came to the last one, they were meant to split it into 2. They made it in 1 and they didn't even release it in cinemas. Like how pathetic would you have felt being part of that franchise? Like just limping.
When
along.
the Divergence and it was like
Allegiant or something, and then
Contagion or something.
Or
look, they're terrible. It's stupid. Yeah. It's stupid.
Right.
Like
The Prestige, because we are doing our tangent thing.
So The Prestige is a very interesting one because, first of all, it's set in like the 1800s.
Yeah, it's cool though. It's kind of like Nikola.
Magic Boys.
Nikola Tesla is alive.
Kind of like the cross between like kind of magic and technology.
Which I loved. Which I absolutely, and it also features David Bowie as Nikola Tesla, which I fucking milled. I was all over that.
The first time he starred in the film though.
Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Which is a personal favourite movie of mine.
Baby. Did you ever listen to like the 14-minute video of him saying "baby" in that?
Yeah, where he's
just
like
every time he says "baby."
It's he says "baby" loads.
Yeah, he says "baby." Oh, baby, baby, baby. I think it's just David Bowie saying "baby." He'd get anyone into bed. Like,
I wonder what made Chris Nolan think, let's get fucking David Bowie.
I don't know. He's
probably like, just kind of the whole thing of like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
That would be my attitude.
Yeah.
Also, I have no doubt in my mind as well that like David Bowie probably would have loved a script like this, because his fucking mind. Have you ever seen him talk about like
he has an Alfred,
the internet and stuff? Like, but you ever see like David Bowie talk about the internet and stuff and all? That guy knew so much about the world. He just like, for a musician,
a gem, like,
he fucking knew
incredible
so much.
person.
Like, yeah. His son is also a director, Duncan Jones, who directed Moon. And
no way,
Moon is
which is a great movie, which we should probably talk about in the podcast.
Very kind of prestige-y.
Very kind of,
like now that we mention it. Yeah, actually,
like,
kind of
like almost
weirdly,
like almost like a rip-off.
Yeah. But so it stars Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Scarlett Johansson actually as well, David Bowie, and it's about these kind of two rival magicians.
They're kind of like the Houdini kind of personalities,
pushing the limits of their magic.
And what I like about it as well is, back then, like in the 1800s, if you were like a magic man or something, like you were the shit, like,
you were the shit.
You
were magic.
Yeah.
you
and if you went back even further, you were Jesus Christ.
Look at this wine in the water. That's like such a basic magic trick now.
Yeah, you buy those little home kits. Those
David Blaine like kills himself on screen, and everyone's giving shit to Jesus. Like,
but yeah, so it's the story kind of revolves around their plot, and they're trying to come up with tricks to better each other, and every time one comes out with the other. It also touches on not only the magic end of it, but like the stunts end of it, which I loved, which obviously was popularized by Houdini, but has gone on to David Blaine's.
It's like Chris Angel and different
Chris
things
Angel,
like that. I mean, they were really popular like 20 years ago.
Yeah,
like, everyone loved magicians again.
Everyone was like, I feel like it was like MTV. Like, would be like, David Blaine's gonna lock himself into a wooden box for 47 hours.
No, man, he had to go to the hospital after that.
Yeah.
He put himself in Times Square for 7 days and 7 nights. No, in ice.
Oh, in ice.
He lived on top of fucking Big Ben or something. No, he lived. What's the bridge beside Big Ben called? I don't know. Probably the
Tower Bridge.
Tower Bridge. He lived above that for a month in a glass box. Like,
Jesus, do you remember he was underwater for like 17 minutes?
Yeah, he did that too. Yeah,
he talked to deep sea divers for ages.
He's not really a magician, more so is he
no, to be fair, he actually is though. I remember watching his
he can do great
TV
tricks,
show, and he can do.
But I know he can. I know obviously he can. But the things that like make you stop and you're like, what the fuck? It's like, I've been watching a load of videos with him recently because he's actually getting into YouTube now. Like,
he came up with my YouTube recommendations.
He watches. It's more so like he'll take a point in his arm, put like a blade through it, but he knows the exact place to put it through,
where
so it won't like really like
do major damage,
and all he does is just keep a straight face. So, are we
just watching David Blaine's self-harm?
It's just kind of like, David Blaine's gone emo, like now he's actually Chris Angel. But it's a weird, because apparently he talks to like monks and like Nepalese monks and everything, like, because we were just talking about, I think on like the podcast before the last podcast, where that Vietnamese monk lit himself on fire,
and he was chill.
I mean, that's just kind of like what Dave Blaine's doing on YouTube now. I mean, the next thing will be like, I lit myself on fire for 17 minutes.
Yeah, he's one of those monks who has an ego. They're probably lighting themselves on fire all the time. And stabbing themselves with fucking needles. But what were we on? The Prestige.
The Prestige.
Yeah.
So
it's
very late.
It's two David Blaines.
Been a long night.
David Blaines going at each other. There's a big twist. See, this is the issue with Christopher Nolan. We can't spoil all these movies because most of his movies have like a big twist. But no, it is a very entertaining film. I haven't seen it in years, and it's definitely got very high rewatch value.
Yeah,
and it is.
Yeah, you're right. It's the. I think this is the
It's
start.
a fine
of his,
film. That's what it is. It's a fine film.
Yeah, this is one that I didn't actually like when I first watched it. And then I sat on it for a few and I was like, you know what, the performance, because you know the ending is just kind of out there.
Yeah.
And it's a bit wild and you didn't think it was kind of possible.
It's also probably the dumbest Chris Nolan twist, even though it is still a good twist.
Good twist in terms of movies.
In terms of movies. But for Chris Nolan, it's a little bit like, you're smarter than that.
But what it is, it's not even that like you're smarter than that. It's like this should have kind of been
more
like,
obvious.
The seed should have been planted for this a lot earlier on. I don't think that it's dumber. I think that it's just kind of he told the story worse than he usually does.
Yeah, it kind of clocks you in the left
I think
ear,
this is one of the films that I think this is actually kind of Nolan's fault and how he went about telling the story. You know, I like he's so masterful in all of his other films, but this one I think that he definitely learned from his mistakes as he went on with the likes of like his bigger blockbusters. But
yeah, and like I mean there is good stuff in The Prestige because he definitely builds on the characters more in this one. Like you do feel the rivalry between
100%
Christian Bale and
definitely. There's some fucking hatred there, like
and I love that Jackman is like the clean cut showman that's kind of more popular, but Bale is probably technically the better magician.
Yeah,
but he's kind of more come on, like he's literally like
he's the what I can do with this fucking bit. Fucking crush his skull.
He's the bad boy. Like.
He is the bad boy.
He's the Aquaman of fucking. He's Jason Momoa. They should go Jason Momoa.
But you're right, T. It always toys around with science fiction elements.
Yeah.
Well, obviously making Nikola Tesla a character, and I really enjoyed this because Nikola Tesla, he is obviously like the founder of like modern electricity. He's probably the greatest inventor. A lot of people consider him one of the greatest inventors. He's
Thomas Edison stole his line.
He literally did.
Edison was a greedy bastard. He patented everything.
Yeah, that was the thing. Edison was more of a businessman
than an inventor.
Like,
I don't think that man invented shit.
But Tesla has this kind of godlike kind of aura about him still, and like there was rumors that he toyed around with like inventing a machine that could actually control the weather.
Yeah.
And like obviously you can't fucking do that. And it was obviously technology that was way out of his fucking league. But I feel like it makes him much more of a mystical character in The Prestige. He's kind of like he's not just this inventor. He's this kind of mystifying man who could be doing
and
things
I feel like as well at The Prestige it's kind of a good story in the sense that it kind of, like Nolan's basically saying like their rivalry is so good and it's so kind of like vicious towards each other that Hugh Jackman actually goes out and like trying to work out Christian Bale's magic. He actually goes out and kind of creates his own magic and through science and through Nikola Tesla and just kind of like breaks reality, which I think is definitely why it didn't like settle with me as well,
because it's very much grounded in reality at the start.
And Tesla's and Edison's rivalry is kind of mentioned in this. It's kind of a subplot, isn't it? It's kind of because that's why Tesla actually has to like leave where they're doing the test.
Exactly. Like which is a good nod. Like it's a weird one because I do really like it, and as you say, Jack, it's the first kind of one that brings you into that rewatch value.
Yeah.
Like as I said, I've seen Memento once or twice. You kind of want to watch Prestige again when you've seen it, like, you know what I mean? I feel like, how many times am I going to watch Following again? I probably will, though, to be fair to this. I think all his movies do have a rewatch value, but this was more of like a good mainstream kind of like, also
did well in the box
office. You're also using huge actors this time around. Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale were obviously massive, and Scarlett Johansson massive.
Yeah, obviously.
They'd still have
star power.
If anything, now they probably have more star power.
Like, thinking about the Prestige.
Yeah,
they do definitely.
Jackman,
They do definitely allude to the invention at the end being something different, and then like it kind of turns into something different itself. See, I think that this is kind of a victim of there was way too much happening. Like Christian Bale's act turned out to be different. What we thought Hugh Jackman and Nikola Tesla were kind of inventing turned out to be different, and then everything turned out to be different in the end, and like the reality kind of broke down on itself. it's definitely a good film. But
it's still great. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem with Nolan. He set the bar so high in his own film.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you pit The Prestige against a lot of average movies, thrillers, it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
But it's just when you're talking about it in a Nolan sense, it's hard to kind of put it up
it's like
there.
we need a disclaimer to say like we love all these films.
all these fucking movies.
Fun fact: Edison invented the first technical video camera. So film camera, so we wouldn't be talking about this without Edison.
If it wasn't for Edison.
Although
we just have an inventor fact every week.
He didn't really at all. He put a patent on it, and then he made it illegal for other people
to develop it.
And then the Lumiere brothers in France were like, fuck that guy. And they asked him for a lend, and he was like, right, well, you can't video anything with it. And then they took a lend of it, and then they just went off and started making their own movies. Not really movies, but that's how kind of like Victor Hugo eventually got a hand of it.
Oh god, that is fucking
patents are ridiculous. Anyway, we should probably move on to Inception.
The patent podcast.
Let's talk about the piece.
I recently rewatched this.
Did you?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's
how many times did you say you've seen Inception?
I saw it like
twice.
4 times in cinema, I'd say.
I saw it twice when it came out. You've only seen it twice?
Only twice.
That is insane.
And I've watched it a couple times at home. I'm going to say like 5, 6, 7, 8.
I saw it twice at least in the cinema. And then I've just seen it countless fucking times since.
It's great.
It is.
Yeah, it's really good.
To me, it's the perfect movie. I know that
the perfect movie.
It's the perfect fucking movie. I'm gonna explain why.
It's on Netflix.
Is it your favorite Nolan film?
Yes, is much.
I would have thought Interstellar was yours.
Yeah.
I think
so
Interstellar.
Close.
For me, Interstellar is a more perfect film than Inception.
Yeah, I agree with Taylor.
I explain why Inception is the perfect film. It's because it has everything. It has an engaging story. It has great action. It has romance. It has some of the best CGI and most mind-bending CGI ever.
The best thing is it's barely any of it's CGI.
Yeah. Sorry, I should actually say VFX. Visual effects they used are just incredible. A concept that is just, I love the concept.
Great
beyond belief.
Dreams. I mean, dreams.
Great
We can all relate to dreams and how crazy then it is, and also how good Nolan is at inventing a world where that's the norm, where you can infiltrate dreams. They have technology
and incept
ideas.
It's deadly.
And what I love about Nolan is he's able to create rules in that universe that he sticks to. So every time you go into another dream, the time moves slightly slower again, and so
And he definitely played with that in Interstellar as well.
Yeah.
What I always found really hard about Nolan is when he's making this and when he's creating this, how the fuck does he keep track of
where he's at, where we're at in the story,
and how fast
the time is moving in
that certain spot?
Yeah. His editor must have the worst. Probably a very well paid job and very happy, but worst job ever.
Critical acclaim, Well, Nolan actually is. I don't think he actually uses a second to go and handle his DOP. I think that he oversees everything the director of photography doing.
He definitely did for Batman Begins. He shot everything himself, which is insane.
It's insane. No director
to not have a fucking second unit is fucking insane.
That's literally it's unheard of basically in the film. And I'd imagine he's incredibly involved in post production.
I honestly just think this guy's like a workhorse. I just think he's just
we didn't actually mention we mentioned it on a different podcast, but he is self-taught. He's been doing this kind of himself for quite a while, he's definitely in the filming world, and his brother was a big hand in it and everything and stuff like that. I mean, this man, you could just, he didn't go to school for this. He's been doing it all his own. He's a super fan.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? This is the thing. It's just incredible to see how he can manage such big productions. But as well, with Inception, as I said previously, one of my favorite things about Inception is there's no real bad guy. Everyone is kind of, you understand everyone's motivation. Everyone's got kind of a decent motivation. It's got the perfect payoff of him as well.
Leo's great, man.
It's so good. And you know what it is as well, is it's a swashbuckling adventure where they're globe trotting around the place. Yeah. But he
can easily change.
He can just pick the environments and
it's great.
We're in a new dream now. And what I love about the whole idea of Inception is they're entering people's dreams to change someone's kind of an idea. And it's very grounded in it's really weird because it's very grounded in reality, because the inception they're trying to do is it's to get a guy to collapse his father's company, which is not what you think in a world where it's you can physically enter people's dreams.
Yeah, they could just kill him, but but that wouldn't get the job done.
Do you think though that it Inception is slightly like when someone's actually telling you about their dream, and you just don't give a fuck.
Well, yeah,
that's another. I was supposed to be like, what the fuck?
I do love Inception.
That is like a.
But
really
I feel like
thing.
when he was pitching the script,
don't tell me your dreams. Like
I feel like when he was pitching the script, he
like,
was so afraid. He must have been so afraid that people are going to be like, why the fuck would we give a shit if this is happening in a dream?
The only dreams I like is Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
No, wait, that's rumors.
But yeah, so like I just think it just hits every single mark. It's cast so superbly. Like there's, it's also has that kind of heist element to it. It's basically a heist movie where they're like, you know, carrying out a heist.
Stakes are on.
Yeah, it's got a team. He assembles a team. He has to get Tom Hardy. He has to get Amin. But that's literally what it is. That's literally it. Like
he definitely feeds into them tropes quite a bit.
You know, Ken Watanabe.
Ellen Page is like the
Ellen Page.
protege.
She's like the young one, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt is like his side man. And I love how they give them all different roles. So it's like, you know, she's the architect. You know, Cobb is the whatever, like vessel.
And Ellen Page, if I'm not mistaken, because I've only seen this twice, is kind of playing like the role on the crew that his wife did play.
Would have played.
Yeah, and then
she was the best.
They have another architect.
What we should do real quick, can we try to explain Inception?
Oh no, quick? We'll just end up looking like idiots.
Wait, I trust you.
So the concept of the movie is it's essentially where it centers around Leonardo DiCaprio and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and they're like kind of a team of people who are pioneers in controlling your dreams
and dream technology
and technology.
They do it for money.
And essentially they play around with the idea of like things like Inception, where if you need to plant an idea in someone's head,
you have to make them come.
You have to make them come to that conclusion themselves. Yeah. But they also play around with, you know, constructing a dream, in that you're constructing a world. You can construct environments in your dream and controlling it. But of course in it, Leonardo DiCaprio is accused of killing his wife, and so he doesn't really have asylum anywhere. He's constantly always on the run, and he gets one job. He's doing these kind of literally different jobs, but he gets one job to collapse this company off one of the richest men in the world, who's Ken Watanabe, and if he does, he'll be able to be exonerated and get back to it to see his kids and things like that. And it's just about them, and the target is Cillian Murphy, and it's about them trying to put the idea in Cillian Murphy's mind that he needs to collapse this company because he's got to get over this thing
in his mind. Cillian Murphy, doesn't he?
Yes, so he's been trained by people to not be incepted, essentially,
and they hunt them. So, but then they go into another dream.
Yeah, so that's the idea of
to plant it into a subconscious again.
So the idea of the heist is they need to get into a point where you can cause inception. You need to go a dream within a dream, and this is within a dream.
And then at what point do we go into Leonardo DiCaprio's dreams?
Well, you can go into other people's dreams while you're in the dream.
And then he finds his wife in his dream.
Yeah. And you don't know whether Leo actually
was
dreaming the whole time.
Is she living in his
dream?
No, she's in purgatory. She's in his subconscious. But he goes to, what's the equivalent of purgatory in it again called?
I don't know, but it's where he sees like his old house. He goes there with Ellen Page, and they're like, it's all of his core memories.
But also like a city.
No, but when he looks to the left, he sees it's the first house. That's where we raise the kids, and then he goes to like. He finds these artifacts and everything, the core things from his memory that he remembers.
So the thimble, or like the little spinny thing, the totem.
No one can touch that because he knows the exact weight.
He knows the exact weight, and it will keep on spinning
if he's in a dream.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and you don't get at the end.
You can't rewrite that, and then you can't. At the end, you don't see whether or not.
Well, in the end, basically they pull it off in a way.
Yeah,
and. The last scene is him going back to his kids, and
he spins the
dreidel. Is it dreidel?
Is it called a dreidel? No, a dreidel is like
I think dreidel is what like Americans
it's called a spinning top. That's just
spinning top.
Yeah.
So he like you don't get to see what happens basically.
Yeah, there's a bit of a wobble in it, but you don't know is it gonna
fall over or not.
Yeah. I think Nolan purposely leaves it up to the viewer to decide. I'm pretty sure it's not a dream.
I don't. Well, it does start to wobble. There's a big
wobble
in it. There's a big wobble.
Yeah. It wobbles. He's not in the dream. That's my thing. If he was in the dream, it would have kept on spinning perfectly. That's the whole point.
Exactly.
And no one else has touched it, so he knows for a fact that he couldn't be in anyone else's dream.
But would you not design is it not that the spinning top has to keep spinning to be in the dream?
It is. It doesn't.
No, he doesn't. He does it once.
Wait, so if you were redesigning a dream, yeah, would you not design a spinning top that would fall over?
No, it's a real item. It's a real item that he knows and only he knows.
But how they know that it's a dream? Like why he has it is to be able to tell whether or not he's in a dream or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he needs to take that item from real life. So that's why Ellen Page has the dice.
So it's only
the die. Sorry.
So that's actually Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Ellen Page has the chess piece.
But is the point not though that so he takes a totem? Does the totem in real life keep spinning?
No, the totem falls.
It topples.
But he does it once. So he comes out of a dream after showing Ellen Page, spins on the table, and it falls.
And it falls. So would you not? So is the fear not that like if he's in a dream and someone redesigns a dream around him basically, and he's in a dream and he wants to know whether or not he's in the dream, would the person not design the totem to automatically fall anyway?
No, because no one knows the weight
except for him.
He
knows the exact
weight. No one else
weight.
can touch it. It's a big deal made in the movie.
He knows when it should topple. He knows how long it should spin for before it topples.
Oh, how long it should spin for.
If it's going on for too long, he's going to go, I'm in a dream.
It's a good point.
It's not that it doesn't topple. Yeah,
the very start of the movie,
it topples.
The guy's lying on the carpet and he goes, I know this carpet. This isn't my carpet.
And he goes, I didn't know he's going to rub his face on it.
Yeah. So like the architect would never be able to 100% make
know which the weight of the totem.
Yeah.
Because what I was thinking is I thought that it spun continuously if he was in the dream.
No, I think that's implied in the movie. But that's actually but it's never actually what it is. I think it's that he knows how long it spins for before it should topple. Like
God, it is such a fucking labyrinth of a film, isn't it?
Yeah, but I feel people get bogged down on those details of the movie when the actual basic story itself is quite
straightforward. No, it is, and I think that's why the film is so popular. It's
got memes. It got memes into confusion.
We gotta go to a dream, into a dream.
Yeah,
and
it
is.
And again, South Park made that episode.
Rick and Morty did it too. But it is. I think that's why it's so popular. Is it is a kind of a basic heist story. On top of all of this, just complex
world building that
and different things along those lines.
And it also gave Nolan a chance.
So wait, sorry, I don't want to. This shouldn't be a podcast of the lads just explaining Inception to me. But so his wife, where's she in the real world?
She's dead.
So she just lives in a subconscious.
So they went to purgatory, right? The equivalent of purgatory, right? But in purgatory, to get out of it, right? You have to kill yourself in purgatory, right? To wake up. Okay?
Yeah, it fucks with your brain.
But you're so deep, you're not sure if it's reality or not, and you can't take that risk. But she was in purgatory for too long, came into reality, didn't know what was reality in a dream anymore.
And she killed herself.
Because they stayed so long in purgatory. Leo had to convince her, we need to kill ourselves to get back into the real world. She never really recovered from it. And she killed herself in the real world, thinking...
I need to watch this film
excellent.
Thinking I'll wake up again. And
I understood all this perfectly at the time.
Yeah, well, I actually didn't. To be fair, my first watch, I was like, I don't know what.
Well, we were very young.
We were.
I remember realizing.
I was expecting the Batman.
Yeah, I remember realizing the purpose of like the totem and everything along that lines. But I think it's very easy to get confused in the whole wife aspect.
And it is. It's well, and they try to explain at the start. It's like she's aggressive in his subconscious. His mind populates.
He's angry.
And himself for letting her die.
And she's like a villain there.
And that's why Ken Watanabe's character is so old. You know, when he finds him washed up on the beach.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know you. He's like, but it's such a distant memory to him that he's not sure. And he's like, you need to kill yourself. But he's lived his whole life there, and it seems like so long. It's very hard to convince Ken Watanabe to kill himself. That's the whole idea of it. You're in it so long.
Yeah. Once you go in, you never really get out. It
sounds like
because whether
psychedelics, like it's
no, it's insane, but it's such a high concept film. It really is. But the story,
and like I know people say that and they go, "Oh, high concept film," but no, like it is.
As we say, the
story's straightforward. It's the concept behind the film.
It's the concept behind the film.
We could talk about this for literally hours.
You want to get on to Interstellar? I don't want to lie. I don't think we need to talk about Dunkirk.
Everyone knows what we think about Dunkirk. We think it's a average war story.
Disappointing.
Yeah, obviously a passion project or something to Nolan. Yeah. Maybe he loves the fucking, I don't know.
The Second World.
I feel bad for him. I don't think he honestly wants to get like bogged down and or restricted to these absolutely mental.
Look, maybe he wants to take a break. Maybe he wants to take a break and just make a movie and make a beautiful looking movie.
And
it's
I'm
a beautiful
glad he
looking
did,
movie.
because as we say, his filmmaking isn't. It's while there's Nolan aspects to every film, he does try different things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. He does try.
Like his cinematography is amazing. The VFX is amazing. His casting's amazing. his writing's amazing and his storytelling's amazing. And I think all these aspects come into one with Interstellar, which is my favourite Christopher Nolan film by far. I think visually it's amazing. The casting, like, I had no idea. I watched the trailer today. Timothy, the fucking hottest thing in Hollywood at the moment. He's in this as well. He's excellent. The other child is brilliant.
She's so
I don't know where she's gone.
How many times have you seen this?
3.
I've only seen this once, I think.
I've seen this,
maybe twice.
I've seen this about 5 or 6 times because I recorded it once, just watched it twice in like 2 days. It's amazing.
It also has
the world building is excellent. Oh my god!
It has superb rewatchability. Like
absolutely.
You get something new from it every time.
like we said, it's a straightforward story with these like Nolan aspects. So you get the best of both worlds, really, in my opinion. The world building is amazing.
It is kind of a straightforward story as well.
Absolutely, like we need food. You need to go to
point
space.
A to point B.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah. But then like some of the concepts, and like it really is like these are actual concepts that are spoken about like by the best scientists and physicists in the world or whatever.
Physicists,
like that scene. Like there's some like major emotional scenes in this. And who's brilliant in this as well? Casey Affleck.
He's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. And
Stormer by Matthew McConaughey.
Absolute
storm.
God, when he goes down to the first planet and like it's just like
he realizes he's gonna lose 10 years.
Yeah, he loses 10 years and he watches.
He ends up losing.
He watches. He watches Casey Affleck like
grow up in front of his eyes.
And bury his baby basically.
Yeah. That is one of the most emotional
and
scenes.
Like the way he cries and that, I'm like, oh fuck, how do you do that? And everything about this movie looks fantastic. First of all, cinematography. Fucking amazing. World building again. I'm just gonna say, like, one of my favorite scenes in this is when he goes to the school and he's like, no, we went to the fucking moon, like we did this, and they're like, no, it was all just to fucking fuck over the Russians or whatever.
Cold War
the baseball game, the music as well. Zimmerman knocks it out of the park. I listen to this all
we didn't
the
even
time.
really mention Zimmerman. Jesus.
Yeah,
it's just Zimmer.
You just fucked me over there.
Oh my god, why am I saying Zimmerman?
Because I'm pretty sure there's another famous Hollywood guy called Zimmerman as well. I think he might be either a producer or a director. But anyway.
Yeah, Hans Zimmer. Yeah, he knocks it out of the park. Fucking Stay is an amazing song. S.T.A.A.Y.
Or even Docking.
Yeah, Docking.
I mean, that whole sequence.
Dreaming of the Crash. Time in Inception as well. What else? That's just fucking fantastic films. Visuals are amazing. Talk about the software.
Have you ever even seen, like, I mean, so many times people talk about the hallway in Inception and how it rotates and how that was created.
To be fair, I love that.
Obviously incredible. But have you ever seen how they actually did the bookcase? And like there's like little to no CGI in that shot. Like like obviously they kind of like filtered it and stuff. They had
McConaughey hooked up to a rig with these projecting screens.
And they created the
bookshelf around him, and they literally flew him up and down.
And I mean, like the whole concept of how they even got there, the fact that it's so kind of like tangible to the audience and how it makes so much sense to the audience of how he got there, to actually like give the fucking like the plans, or they're making an engine to
save humanity essentially,
to give them
perpetual
to his daughter,
motion, isn't it?
And his daughter created it to eventually give them to the people who would then give it to Matthew McConaughey, and
it's this kind of closed loop of time, and it's the only kind of. So like it's
a lot more straightforward than Inception.
It is like
in a really complex way.
In a complicated way.
There's a graph. There's literally a graph.
It also toys around with concepts that are very difficult to explain, because it talks about like fourth and fifth dimension, and it's common knowledge that humans cannot physically comprehend a fourth dimension.
Well, Joe Rogan can.
Have you ever done DMT?
Yeah.
But
just let yourself go, man.
But it's literally just a. I want to go back to what you said, Jack, about world building, because I watched it again recently in the cinemas, as I mentioned the other week, and there was a little throwaway line that I didn't really cop in the first one when John Lithgow was going, popcorn at a baseball game, like it's ridiculous. He's like, I want a hot dog, and then Matthew McConaughey is kind of like, oh well, people were too busy fighting for food back in my generation, like, so it shows where it's like McConaughey went through the time when literally there was no food on the planet. Now they've gotten to a point where they've learned how to farm certain foods, but they are in trouble. Like once they run out of those foods, they're in big trouble.
It's a bit like the fucking famine here in
Ireland.
It's
exactly. They actually say that. Michael Caine actually says it happened to the potato blight in Ireland, and they mention that. But obviously, it's about them finding a wormhole, and the concept of a wormhole is it's a physical hole in
space and
time that can put you to another galaxy or another star system. That's why it's interstellar travel.
Yeah.
We find another star system because the idea of traveling space is that if you find a star, there's going to be planets around it, and likely one or two of them will be able to sustain life in some shape or form.
And like, I love how they find these planets that can sustain life, but like,
there's
doesn't
still
mean
no
that there's
guarantee.
that's good to go. Like.
It's good to, exactly like. And going back to what we said about how it plays with time is such a commodity. Like, it's such a thing that is against humanity. And what I love about it is space does not follow that, and it really grasps the emotional end of that. And I remember the first time I watched Interstellar, it just hit me so hard that he was missing out
on everything, and he knew it,
and it would just be so horrible to think of someone out in space coming back and they haven't aged a day, and
it's incredible how you actually see that, like how it's true, you know, like how have you seen anyone like explain time travel in a sense?
That's how
it
works.
Like space travel, like how much time you could actually lose while remaining the same age, which is just, it boggles my mind, and how we just managed to capture it and kind of make it almost like accessible, straightforward and accessible to like that's it, all blockbuster straight up. It couldn't be any more.
It's a blockbuster that obviously has a very non-blockbustery concept.
And not to move away from Interstellar, but that is how film should be done. That's honestly, in my big opinion, I throw Tarantino in this as well, off blockbusters. You should make a film accessible, whilst also hitting on complex issues or complex like theories or complex anything. But you need to make it accessible, and you need to make it entertaining, because you want to hit everyone, you know.
You want to make a movie that people can enjoy and get.
But it's also got depth behind it. It's also intricate. It's also intelligent.
And like, as we say, this is a film about something as high concept as space and time, and how small humanity is. And what I love about that is, like, if you watch, I watch loads of fucking nerdy fucking YouTube channels about like space and time and stuff, and like constant like. Physicists and stuff will always go on about how insignificant we are and how we're so small, but Interstellar puts humanity at the heart of the story, how our struggle to keep going,
because
it's not accept that this is the end of humanity.
It's survival at the end
survival,
of the day. I mean, like, that is the crux of Interstellar. It's kind of like the same way Inception is just a story about a heist. You know, I mean,
exactly,
like he takes these kind of base ideas and he just builds a complex world around it. You know,
I'm gonna actually. This was also a movie that I always pair with one of my other favorite sci-fi movies, Arrival. Yeah, because they both have the same approach to time.
Yeah.
In that the fourth dimension see time as one thing that they can just view and pick points in it. It's not that they can travel in it, but they can just point.
It's not linear.
It's not. It's just this. It's not right to say it's a loop, but because. In Arrival, the whole thing is that they know they're
it's
going
a palindrome.
To die. It's a palindrome, exactly. And Interstellar does the exact same thing.
It's the name Hannah.
And and it doesn't necessarily matter what point they pick him to deliver the information back to Murph. It's just that it gets there. It gets there, and they know this is the point where he tells.
And that's
Murph,
always going to happen.
And it's always going to happen. Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's just.
God, it's a beautiful film.
It's such a beautiful film.
Really
it
beautiful
really
film.
is a beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film. It's
you know, it's always I just completely off topic here, and like we've only got a few minutes left, but. That argument, would you rather go on unlimited holidays for the rest of your life or go to space once? What do you pick?
Oh man,
you guys are fucking idiots if you're not going to space once.
Well, this is the thing. There's so many countries want to go to, but I need to see space.
Yeah,
like no one gets to do that.
No one gets to. There's literally a handful of people in the history of mankind.
In the history of dogs,
who have ever
a couple of dogs,
a couple of dead dogs, a couple of dead dogs,
a couple of monkeys,
dead monkeys.
You know, Laika, the dog, she's stuffed in a Russian museum, in a Russian cosmonaut museum. You know, Laika, the dog, she died, but they got her stuffed and. It's nice. It's actually so cute. She's like standing there and she looks like the most patriotic dog. They have a proper like face standing out looking into.
She was probably like, "Why am I starving to death?
Why am I burning up in this capsule?" Like,
the dog died like on impact, or did the dog come back?
No, she came back and she survived. like it did, but like died like a few years after.
Oh,
what? I thought she died in Spain.
No. Sure, she had to come back for them to know we could send people up there.
I thought she was a failed mission, that dog.
No.
There was
when
a
was
couple.
the chimp fail?
The monkeys died.
The monkeys died. They died.
Because they freaked out. Dogs are actually remarkably calm.
Yeah.
They said the dogs actually just
I
sat
don't
there
have a fucking clue what's going on.
and just rode it out.
You would send the monkey up first.
Monkeys were like...
Monkey would be the point of call.
It would be, like, I mean, they're basically us.
Yeah.
Or
Or
have
a
you ever
snake.
seen...
No, not the Rick and Morty episode.
But like dogs in a car will just kind of like sit there and chill.
They'll just accept it, like.
Whereas like if you see a cat in a car, they'll jump everywhere.
I think that's why the monkeys died and stuff. They just got so panicked. They took heart attacks and stuff and all. Yeah. But anyway,
imagine fucking spending all that money on a rocket and your monkey has a heart attack. It fucks up your day. Like.
Alright, so are we kind of at a consensus? Christopher Nolan is an absolute pioneer.
Yeah, just one more thing I want to get into. Just in terms of VFX, how amazing is Gargantua, the black hole in Interstellar?
Yeah. It's amazing. Just go watch the scene. You know it's an excellent scene when they have it on YouTube for like 5 minutes of the movie. It's got 13 million views.
And just one thing to do is when you watch these Nolan movies, just picture Interstellar and then picture Following and how actually different they are, but they also have that same kind of...
Well, you see, even like when you mentioned you kind of moved away from that non-linear thing, I feel like non-linear is just like even if when it's not the format of the plot, it's still everything to do with the plot. You know,
yeah,
I mean,
100% true. But yeah, I think we could talk for hours and hours about.
So what's your what's your favorite Nolan film?
Yeah, let's do that.
Mine's Interstellar. It's well documented. I've gone on about it for about 10 minutes there. So
mine would also be Interstellar.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say Inception. Just as I said, I think it's the perfect movie. But close second, Interstellar. It's just stunning. It just. Every Nolan film.
That's leaving out Dark Knight, though. To be fair, The Dark Knight is actually my favorite Christopher Nolan film.
Yeah, but
actually, I completely forgot about. I was gonna leave it out because I mean, again, I think that's a completely
we always
different
put them
universe.
as a different beast.
But no, The Dark Knight would definitely be my favorite Nolan film.
And I think that's everyone. Yeah.
All right, so thanks again, guys, for tuning into another episode of the Full Feature. Next week, I believe we're doing. What were the films that we settled on?
No, we're gonna do
bad movies with great concepts.
Yeah, so I think that we're gonna be focusing on the likes of The Butterfly Effect, for example.
Yeah.
As one, we'll also have a couple more to go with that in time.
Yeah, there's lots out there. I think it'd be fun. Imagine Christopher Nolan did Butterfly Effect. Fuck me, that would be a great movie.
And if you guys have seen a movie that you disappointed you, but you liked the idea around it, it could have been done better, let us know as well, because...
I mean, we'll definitely work out a good few more, and I mean, they'll probably be pretty well known as Jumper was on the table. So. Anyway, give us a like on our Instagram or a follow on our Instagram. Download us wherever you listen to podcasts, and give us a review as well if you could. That would be great. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.